Here we are back on the grind, the morning run. It's Thursday, August 18, 2023, and this is my daily routine morning run. Here we are at Industry, I suppose. Usually we go all the way to the end of this run, which is Ogle, and then we turn back. At that point I would have run about 5 miles. Just wanted to show you this neighborhood. We actually showed you this neighborhood in the last video on Industry. So this is a house. We actually showed you the other side of this house on the inside, I think. Oh no, it was another house, the one further up. We're going to go through this neighborhood in a future video and show you what's happening here at Industry on the east coast of Demerara. But for now, we're just on a regular morning run. These are some coconut trees. They planted these trees about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and now they're growing. There was a time when the trees were not so tall and people would cut off the branches to make pointer brooms, and people, in fact, in the houses on the other side of the highway thought the trees were blocking their view, so they were trying to destroy them. However, these trees have survived, and some of them even have coconuts on them. So here you have coconuts. Right, so they're now 5 years old. This is about the time when trees started. Coconut trees take about 5 years to mature and start bearing fruit. So this is about the time when these trees are going to become fruitful. And of course, because they belong to the state, I suppose that people who live in this area could come and harvest the coconuts and eat them, and probably sell them too. But this is Thursday morning. It's about, what, 7 maybe? Closer to 7. And this is the east coast of Demerara. Right now we're at Industry and approaching Atlanticville. The last time I was in Atlanticville, I think I showed you a new housing development, a new condominium complex or rental apartments complex that was being built in this neck of the woods. It's closer to completion now. I think they've actually painted. So they've painted one of the buildings, as you can see here in Atlanticville. So this building I showed you in a previous video. Alright, this building I showed you in a previous video. They painted it now. At least one of the buildings is completed and has been painted. The other one, I think they started painting it too, so these are closer to completion. That's Atlanticville, here on the east coast of Demerara. And it represents about 100 units of housing or so. So yeah, I usually try to run about 5 miles in 45 minutes, 9 minutes a mile when I'm in good shape. Times like that when I'm out of shape, because I took a few weeks off of actually running, I can probably run about 2 miles before I need to take a break and start again. So the goal is usually to run about 10 miles in 90 minutes, 9 minutes a mile pace. That's when I know I'm in great shape. And when I need to get in shape is when I can only run 2 miles, which is where I am now. But yes, guys, I'm gonna bring another series of videos like I promised since July on reasons to visit Guyana and actually how to plan your trip to Guyana. With all of the changes going on in the world at this point, Guyana doesn't seem such a bad place to be, you know, with fires, wildfires burning up North America, Canada, and even as far as Hawaii. We do have a hotter than usual summer, but nothing like the disasters that seems to be happening elsewhere, like the heat waves in Arizona, for example. So it might still be a great place to consider visiting. And eventually, as this place gets to be more developed, I suppose it will compete with other Caribbean islands and even Europe, just because it's relatively, comparatively less crowded and more comfortable in terms of climate. But yeah, what I'm going to do is list 10 places to visit when you come to Guyana, places to enjoy as a tourist, places to eat, places to sleep, that is where to stay, and places to get entertained. And generally a kind of a cultural handbook to understand what's happening in Guyana, because a lot of people don't understand what's happening here. That's the East Coast Highway, Rupert Craig Highway, on a morning when there's traffic heading out of the city. Morning. Traffic heading towards me is heading out of the city. Traffic heading away from me is heading into the city. And now we're approaching Turkine, and the colorful building ahead, that's the
distance 6 miles, duration 1 hour 49 minutes 46 seconds, pace 27 minutes 30 seconds per mile, 929 kilocalories burned.
That's Movie Town. Alright, so that building is Movie Town here on the east coast at Turkine. This is UG Road. I think I've done a video at least part way into UG Road showing you how things have changed. I've built a sidewalk there now, which is different from what it used to be. And this is what the seawall looks like. Now, a lot of these mangroves are growing up on the other side of the seawall. And while it's actually a good thing, particularly to protect the coast from rising sea level, it also becomes a barrier to the view. So eventually, when all these mangrove trees become tall, it will be impossible to see beyond them, to see the Atlantic Ocean. And beyond them right now is the Atlantic Ocean, or the mud flats. When the tide is out, what you see is mud flats, because we don't have beaches on this part of the coast. Why? Because of all the silt comes out of the rivers, particularly the Amazon River, gets deposited all along this coast. And because we don't have coral reefs, we don't really have white sand in this area. But this is the east coast now. This is what it looks like now. And like I said, all of these mangrove shrubs are eventually going to become tall trees and eventually obscure your view of the Atlantic Ocean. Like I said, it's a good thing because it protects the coast. It's a bad thing because you will no longer be able to see the ocean from the seawall. But that's course, the necessary change in response to climate change. The only other alternative would be to reclaim the land along the coast. That is, it's possible to sort of bring sand in from the hilly, sandy region in Guyana, which is region 10 around Linden. You can fill up the coast, build a platform out into the ocean, reclaim the land. I guess if you do that, you might gain a few hundred square miles of coast. It's going to be pretty expensive, but it will be one of the alternatives to building this, planting these mangrove trees, which is, I guess, the cheaper solution. The continental shelf extends for about, I don't know, a couple of miles, maybe 5 or 10 miles off the coast, when it actually drops off into the Atlantic Ocean. In other words, it's shallow, fairly shallow along the coast here for a good mile or two out, and then the continent falls off into the ocean, and then it gets deep. So you could probably reclaim a couple of miles of land by simply filling out, just bringing sand and depositing it along the coast. But I don't think that's the solution that Guyana is pursuing or is even thinking about at this point. That's Movie Town. Still promise to take you inside and take a look at it. I still haven't seen the movie Oppenheimer. It's one of those movies that I should actually go see, because I am a physicist and learning about nuclear physics is part of my undergraduate and graduate studies. So I'm quite familiar with the theory of the atomic bomb and nuclear weapons. It'd be interesting to go see exactly what made it into the movie, how much of it is actually factual and meets the standards of physics, correct physics. So that's one of the challenges I have to take up. I'll probably take a day or two to go film inside, make a video inside of Movie Town. Not too far away from here, there's also Giftland Mall, which actually has cinemas as well. So there are a couple of cinemas, well, 2 venues with a number of screens, probably a dozen or so screens in this neck of the woods. But there are no, really active cinemas in the city. I think there was one on Water Street. There's a time when Georgetown itself had like half a dozen cinemas, and right now you'd have to come all the way out here to go to a movie. Although I think there was one on Water Street near to, what's that, Cormina Street? I don't know if they're still operating. But this is it, guys. This is Thursday morning in Georgetown. It's what, about 7? Same time as New York, same as East Coast time, and this traffic is heading into the city for work. I'm walking on the wall itself, right? I'm walking on the seawall. I like to come out here and walk or run on the seawall every day. Usually I get out about 5 a.m. But at 5 a.m. it's too dark to make videos, so on my way back home, that's when I make these videos. Now the other video that I promised to make is one about the current economic state of the country and the political economy. So Bank of Guyana releases a quarterly report 4 times a year. Usually it's about the Natural Resource Fund quarterly report is released every 3 months or so, and usually gives you a brief summary of the economic conditions in the country. Somebody is asking me, well, what are the plans. Where can you get information about the economic status of the country, or the government's plans for the future development of the country? And I was saying to that person, the best place to get that information from is the Bank of Guyana website. Central Bank usually releases their quarterly report, that is it, the bank's report, as well as the report for the Natural Resource Fund, and you can actually deduce from their report the true economic conditions in Guyana from the quarterly report. So I plan to do that, to sort of examine the quarterly report, to read it and interpret it and make a video about that, so that people get an idea of where Guyana is in terms of economics, by the figures and numbers that are being released by the central bank, but also to sort of correlate that information with what's happening on the ground in Guyana. Because the reason for making these videos is to show you how the situation is in reality compared to what the politicians say, right? So I said to that person, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could also find the same information at the Ministry of Finance website. So the Ministry of Finance has a website that mirrors, in a sense, the Bank of Guyana website, but they tend to have a political bias that corresponds with what the government of the day is pushing or promoting, and it's not necessarily factual. But the idea is to compare what is in these quarterly reports, what is in these Bank of Guyana reports, with what is happening on the ground. For example, the number of homeless people on the streets. Morning. The number of murders in the country, you know, the number of incidents of domestic violence and crime in general. You can correlate that with the economic conditions in the country. And so part of the reason why I'm going to do that review is to say this is what's happening in terms of, this is what the books say. Like, for example, I said that the books currently say that Guyana has $1.7 billion in its sovereign wealth fund in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and the government has been withdrawing about $200 million every 3 months to perform, you know, infrastructure development and a lot of the politically motivated financing, you know, like giving cash grants to certain citizens and so on. But the question is, why is it that the homeless population is increasing in Guyana? This is Guyanese homeless, because it's not necessarily the same as people coming into Guyana from Brazil and Venezuela and so on, because that population is not on the streets. It's not visibly on the streets. The people who are homeless in Guyana are Guyanese citizens. And the question is, why is it that the books, that is the bank account, says that we have $1.7 billion, but the population of homeless people seems to be increasing? So that's one of the things we're going to examine in a future video. Here we are at Liliendal. I think they're building some kind of canal. They're building some retaining walls for this canal. So there's a canal here that drains water off the land, and there's a pumping station. This is the pumping station at Liliendal, where the water gets pumped or drained into the Atlantic Ocean. Usually when it rains, they turn the pump on. You can see that's the reservoir of water that gets impelled into the pump and comes out on the other side of the wall here. This is also a docking station for fishermen. This guy is taking care of his nets. But yeah, this is the outlet for this pumping station. So there are two pumps. These are the two pumps on the other side of the wall, and this is where the water comes out. They've actually built these sheds, kind of like they're supposed to be restrooms, but like everything else, they don't last long in Guyana. People start destroying them as soon as they're completed. And right ahead here, this used to be the COVID hospital. I think what was here before was a convention center. They turned it into a hospital during the pandemic. Right out here at Lilindale. And I'm not even sure if it's being operated. But this is the COVID hospital where a lot of the patients who contracted COVID during the pandemic were brought for treatment. I think it's still happening. There's still a number of cases of COVID in Guyana, and I think the hospital probably still treats patients who need to be hospitalized for COVID. There you have ibis. These birds, let's call them galling. The red one is the ibis, native to Guyana, out here on the mud flats. So guys, that's what's happening here in Guyana. Number of videos coming up in the future. I have a number of channels too, which I'm still preparing content for, and the whole reason behind those channels is so that I can separate some of these ideas, like the food channel, like the car channel, which was supposed to be a way for me to describe the process of building a car company, an electric car company. The food channel, a way to share recipes for local and indigenous and ethnic dishes, foods, not only in Guyana but around the world, and so on. So those are in the works. I'm going to probably spend some time building out content, putting out content on those channels. But on the main channel, I'll keep posting regular content about the development, in other words, changes that are happening in Guyana during this rapid period of economic growth and expansion. Talking about politics, economics, food and fun here in Georgetown, Guyana. So this is the Lilindale Hospital at Lilindale, and that building, this one over here, is one that is almost completed. I think it's the last building in the complex that is being constructed. I have no idea what it is, but it seems to have a number of bathrooms, judging from the plumbing on the outside. This, of course, used to be a convention center. And right next door where the crane is, that used to be the Ministry of Health. There was a wooden building there, a 3-story wooden building that housed the library of the Ministry of Health. Got burned in a fire around 2015, I believe. Way in the distance, you can see way in the distance, that's the Pegasus Suites Corporate Center. It's kind of the end of the seawall in Georgetown at Kingston. But this is it, guys. This is what I do every morning. My morning run. I don't come to the same location, don't use the same route, but usually this is where I run on the East Coast. And when I'm not on the East Coast, I kind of go along the East Bank, or that's the East Bank of the Emerald River, or along the new bypass road through South Ramvelt Gardens. Now out here in the last, I would say, month or so, I've seen this development here. This is a housing complex, I believe, is being built. So this land is being prepared for, I guess, new houses. This is in the last few days. I'd say in the last 7 days or so, they started piling sand and spreading it out on the land. I guess in preparation to build a foundation for something. I have no idea what it is, but right next door, these houses next door, those houses are rental property. So they're like multi-unit 3-story buildings, 2 and 3-story buildings. And I assume that is what is happening here as well. Here at Sapphire, Liliendal on the east coast. They're building more, I think, multi-unit rental property. But as soon as they start to lay the foundation, put in the structures, I'll bring you some updates on that. A little further along, that's the Yokohama Trading car sales lot. So there's a kind of parking lot for cars. So somebody had the bright idea that they would build these display lots that you find all along the highway in North America. Somebody thought they'd bring that idea out here, and so there are all these used cars, Japanese cars, and a few, I think, European cars that are piled onto this lot.
Distance 7 miles. Duration 2 hours 9 minutes 43 seconds. Pace 19 minutes 56 seconds per mile. 1088 kilocalories burned.
Like I was saying, the buildings, these buildings in the background, those buildings are multi-unit rental property, right? So these are buildings that are being leased or rented, and I suppose that's what's happening in the lot. That is the place where they're putting sand on the ground. They're planning to build more of those rental houses. That's Yokohama Trading. I suppose you can see that. That's Yokohama Trading. So guys, that's what's happening here in this neck of the woods. Next village is Bel Air. We've seen the changes, at least from the street, of the new homes, new residences that are being built in Bel Air Springs, in Bel Air Gardens. Haven't had a chance to walk around inside this neighborhood, which is in fact a gated community. But eventually we'll have a chance to look inside. This is the Atlantic Ocean. So on the other side of this highway, this is the Atlantic Ocean. And the mud flats. And like I said, within a couple of years, you probably won't be able to see the sea because there's a lot of mangrove trees, saplings that are already growing along on the mud flats here. And I think that's the plan. The government of Guyana planned to protect the coast by planting these mangrove forests along the coast. So that's what's up, guys. This is Rupert Craig Highway on a Thursday morning. I'm probably gonna do some sit-down videos, sit down and talk to the camera for a few to sort of describe the local environment, sort of bring some understanding of and explaining what's happening. Yeah, this is a BMW X5, really unreliable and problematic vehicle, particularly for Guyana, because those of you who tell me that you like BMW and that your BMW doesn't have problems, well, in Guyana, and the ones I own tended to have reliability issues. So I wouldn't recommend them if you're coming. Like, I have another channel, a car channel, where I explain. I'm going to put some videos out there describing what are some of the best vehicles to own in Guyana. And as far as reliability goes, I don't recommend European cars, European vehicles for Guyana, because particularly problematic in a country where spare parts are difficult to come by. This is a new building that's being built in Bel Air Springs. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm gonna do a sit-down video describing, at least bringing some explanation to the current situation in Guyana, current economic situation, so that you kind of have a context for understanding these videos. So a lot of the videos that I make require some context, require to understand what is the economic driver, what's the situation that gives rise to the way these roads are being built. For example, what they did recently with this highway is they removed all of the grass from the divider and replaced it with paving stones. So the divider between these two sides of Rupert Craig Highway has been replaced for several miles with paving stones, and that's because, of course, the paving stones provide a low maintenance option, whereas the other, having shrubs in the divider required constant maintenance, and Guyana is not known for its attention to maintenance. Okay, now I'm seeing some comments. Yeah, I could see, what's that, Ray Alley from Texas. Welcome to the live. And to Tyrone, Anthony Rose, welcome to the live. This is only the second live video I'm doing, and I plan to stream more regularly as a way to give you a first-hand view and to interact first-hand. This is a new building you can see from the road. It's a multi-story condominium in Bel Air Springs that I have to get access to the inside. It's a gated community. To be able to show you up close, I haven't done that yet, but I will in future. And coming up is the entrance, which used to be called Conversation Tree, the Conversation Tree entrance to Bel Air Springs and deeper communities, Lexington Gardens and Prashad Nagar and so on. That's the next intersection where the traffic lights are. But yeah, I'm probably gonna sit down and make some videos describing the economic context for a lot of the development. Why, for example, the money is being spent the way it is, and what could be done better, and why we can't get the kind of quality that we're accustomed to in North America or Europe, because we don't have the implementation of standards. We don't have the same attention to detail that exists, or even the systems and mechanisms for enforcing standards and details. So all of that has to be described right? And sit down video, I have to sit down and describe the situation. But this is the new road that's being built here at Conversation Tree. So you can see that's the retaining walls. I actually showed a video of this area sometime in the past. The retaining walls have been completed. But the surface of the road is not yet filled in. You can see it's going to be wider when it's completed. The road is going to be wider than what was there before. But they're making some progress, and eventually I'm going to do a video to show exactly what that looks like when it's completed. Yeah guys, thanks for joining me on this live. I will be doing live videos more regularly to interact with and show you in real time what the situation is down here. We'll probably also take live streaming around the country, you know, so we can look at other places outside of Georgetown and get a real time feel and understanding for what's happening in Guyana, because I can actually describe the context better in a live stream. Try to let you know how things are changing and why they're changing. This is Bel Air Gardens. This neighborhood is Bel Air Gardens. It's an old neighborhood right along the Rupert Craig Highway. And overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. But like I said, eventually all of these mangrove trees are going to grow up and shield the view of the Atlantic Ocean. And so what's going to happen is people are going to have to build taller to get an ocean view. This is the traffic here on Rupert Craig Highway on Thursday morning. It's about backed up for about a quarter of a mile or so. As you get closer to the city, it slows down and gets backed up. But that's the context. Anyway guys, share this video, share the live, let people know what's happening as I, start up a new regular system for communicating what's happening in Guyana and explaining it in the context of what's happening around the rest of the world. Because the question is, climate change is happening. It's real. There are people who still deny it, but it's real. But it's not happening evenly around the world. Some places are experiencing worse effects of climate change than others. Guyana actually has had a mild impact. Climate change has had a mild impact on Guyana so far. The temperature is noticeably warmer. In other words, this summer has been hotter than usual. But so has the spring has been a little colder than normal. April, for example, and March this year, people were complaining that it had been pretty cold. And just last night and the night before, the weather is beginning to change here, and it's beginning to be cooler again. Right, so we're getting bigger swings in temperature and rainfall. And that is how climate change is affecting Guyana. It's not as dramatic as the wildfires in North America. It's very mild compared to elsewhere, but who knows what will happen eventually, because the change is real. Climate change is real. And I don't think we're as prepared for it as we ought to be. But bringing these videos will help you to compare what's happening in Guyana with what's happening elsewhere around the world. And that's the whole point. The point is to put Guyana in context of what's happening elsewhere around the world. We're approaching, what is this? Sheriff Street. We're going to end the live somewhere around here. So I need to get back to my run. But, morning. Sheriff Street, I think, has now been completed. There were a lot of renovation works on Sheriff Street in the last couple of years or so, building new drainage systems, new sidewalks, and so on. Gonna have to make an update video on what happened to Sheriff Street since the last 3 years ago, since the last time I filmed a video, made a video of it. But that's what it looks like right now in 2023. Right, that's looking up the block along Sheriff Street. But yeah, as I said, share this live stream with friends and family. Let them know that I'm going to be streaming regularly, and they can tune in usually after sunrise for my morning run. But I'll make other videos during the day and post those to the main channel, and you can still, even if you miss the live stream, watch it later as it gets recorded and posted. So that's it, guys. That's it from Georgetown, Guyana, here on the Rupert Craig Highway and on the seawall. Until tomorrow. Later.